that he is everywhere. And if only you open your heart and your understanding to him, he will make himself real to you. And he'll destroy the fear, the anxiety, the pity that we feel for ourselves, and realize that even though these things have been put upon us by others, God is greater than all the rules and regulations and all the laws, and he is supreme and sovereign above them all. And nobody can tell him where he can go and where he can't go. He's here in the church, yes, but he's also there with you, and no one can hinder that. This is the greatness of our God. Great is our God. Great. And when we begin to comprehend this, we begin to have that assurance, that peace, that security, that no matter what's going on around us, our God is greater than it. And he is for us. He intends us to be blessed. He created us in blessing. And even though blessings may not be as we think they should be, what he gives to us is that which he intends us to enjoy. And we should be thankful for it. Regardless of what it is, being thankful. Because thanksgiving opens the door for God to do more, because he knows we appreciate what he's doing. The lessons in the last few weeks have been very challenging to us, because they have given to us the understanding of how great God is and what he expects out of us in this life. He has brought to us and given to us much. We lack in nothing. And if only we can trust him and believe what he's done, great things can be those that are around us. In the life of Jesus, as he was traveling in these last days of his life here upon earth, everywhere he went, a multitude of the people would gather around him. We could look at it several different ways. One saying, oh, they worshipped him. They thought he was so great, they worshipped him. There's a matter of truth in that. But also the fact that they had great need, and he could meet their need. They fed them when they were hungry. He healed them when they were sick. No one else had been able to do this. The governments had not helped them. The church basically at that time had not helped them. And here was Christ, who was able to bring into their lives all that they needed. And so they would come to him. I'm not trying to judge them. I don't want to say things that are not true. But I think they probably were drawn to him because of what he could do for them. Because they weren't getting help from anywhere else. But Christ was the source of blessing. He was the source of life. And therefore he could give of that life. Governments don't have life. Men of source do not have that on their own. They can't give it. So they rule and regulate and put you down. Christ does not do that. He lifts you up. He does not take away. He gives. Does not take what you have and demand it for him. He gives to us everything. And we are blessed because of him. And so the crowds would come to him. At even times when he was trying to rest or trying to go to the mountain to pray, going around the end of the lake, they would come to the other side and greet him when he got off the boat. They could get there faster than he did. And he would minister to them because he had compassion. He had mercy. He had love in his heart for the people. He realized they were abused. They were not given what they should have. They were being taken advantage of by the whole society at that time. And so his compassion for them to meet their needs and to build them up, to bring hope to them. Even though they may turn against him, he still blessed them. he still met their needs. There came a time, though, when he needed to get away. He knew his time was drawing near, and he needed to be prepared for this. Not only him being prepared, but he needed to prepare the disciples for this. He had to go to a place where that he could be basically alone. Not a crowd of people demanding, not a multitude coming at his feet, but a time when he could be alone. The wisdom of God was his. And he left Israel. He went north into Syria. The scripture says he went into the areas of Tyre and Sidon, not into the cities, but into the area. He could go there and be basically free, because this was an area that was an enemy to Israel. And so the Jews would not leave Israel to go into that area because of the hatred they had for each other. And so he knew that if he would go there, he would be basically free from the mobs, the multitudes. And he knew that the people that were in that area were not really looking to him as their leader, their savior, because this was the enemy. If you go back to the time of God delivering Israel from Egypt, remember he told Israel, I'll give you Canaan. These were the people that lost their land when the Israelites went into Canaan. These people, the Canaanites, moved to the north of Israel because God gave the land to Israel. And so there was a bitterness, an anger, but even more than this, there was a fear of God, because they saw how great God was. Remember the walls of Jericho? All they did was march around them, and the walls fell down. Every battle that Israel went into, basically, they won. Even though they were not warriors, even though they were not trained, in some cases they didn't even have weapons, but yet they would win because of God. So there was a respect or a fear of the people. And so the two were not friendly, they were separated. Jesus knew that if he would go into that area, he would be basically left alone. And so he and the disciples left Israel and went north into the area where we would look at it as Syria. And as he went there, he had a purpose and a plan, because nothing that he did was without purpose. He was building a kingdom for God. He was restoring people to God. He came for the lost sheep of Israel. But he knew that the time would come when it would be for all. And perhaps part of his going into the area of Tyre and Sidon was a proclamation, a declaration that his life was given for more than just Israel, but for the whole world. He didn't say that, but yet there was something there that drove him into that area. They were a people of greater need maybe than the Israelis, because they didn't have a real recognition of him. They didn't believe that he came for them. As he came into this area, it says in the scriptures, a Canaanite woman came out from that area, that region, and began to cry out, saying, "Have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David. My daughter is cruelly demon-possessed." Now, several things here show us in her attitude and in the way she was. She did not immediately run up to Jesus. She did not go up to touch him. She kept her distance, and she was crying out loud so that he would hear her from a distance. It's like social distancing, which we have today. There was this respect that was there. So she didn't come right up to him. But notice her words. "Have mercy on me." She was pleading for help. have mercy on me. I don't deserve this. I'm not a Jew. I don't deserve this, but have mercy on me. Then she said something that shows that she understood a little more than maybe the whole region. Because even though there are bad countries, bad governments, within those governments there are always good people. There's always someone that's righteous, someone that's good. So maybe this area was an enemy to Israel, but yet this woman had something within her that made us aware of the fact that she had respect for Christ and she knew who he was. She said, "Oh Lord, Lord." This was a word, an attitude of respect, of worship. Lord, someone that you look up to. Lord, Son of David. Now she comes back to his lineage. She's not looking at her situation, but she's recognizing who he is and giving him honor, worshiping him, if you would please, in who he was. Son of David. She understood the history of Israel, and she knew that he was the son of David. Then she cried out, "My daughter is demon-possessed." She understood the enemy. She had this awareness within her. There was something there deeply entrenched within her. And possibly, even though she was a Canaanite, an enemy of Israel, her origin goes back to God. No one lives that did not come out of the hand of God. No one. And so there is very possibly that within her, deeply entrenched, as I believe it is in all people. There's an awareness of who God is. Silent perhaps, hidden, put down because of misunderstanding or lack of knowledge, sometimes because of hatred. But there's something there within man, because we all came from God. His breath is the life that we have. So she cried out to David, "I don't deserve to be able to get this from you. I'm not worthy of it. I'm not a Jew. I'm not of your tribe. I'm not of your country, your nation. And I know that you came from God for them, but yet I need help." And so she was crying out to God. He didn't answer her. Didn't reply. Now this is not like Jesus. Anyone that came to him, didn't matter who it was, he always had a word of compassion, a word of love for them. But he didn't answer her. And she cried out all the louder. And the disciples were beginning to get a little nervous, because here they are in a country that's an enemy to Israel, and they're Jews, and they're there. They don't want to create a lot of confusion. They don't want to make it known to a lot of people that they're there. And so they say to Jesus, "Jesus, she's making a lot of noise. Just give her what she wants and get her out of here." Theirs was fear. But Christ would not do this, because his was love. Even though he was silent, there had to be something that he understood, something that he was working on, planning, doing. He wasn't just ignoring her, but he was drawing on her to bring forth more of what she really had within her. But he answered when they said to send her away, and she kept crying out. He said to her, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." He was making a statement, and it seems so cruel on the surface. But it didn't make her angry. It didn't put her down. She stood firm. And she said, "Lord, She came and bowed down before him. From the distance, she came up closer and bowed down in worship. Lord, help me. A plea. She understood he came for Israel. She wasn't arguing with him about that. She wasn't wanting to be a Jew. She was wanting help. She had heard stories probably about what Christ had done for others. There was this awareness, plus this love she had for her daughter. Her daughter was demon-possessed. And as a mother, it affected her as much as it did the daughter. She felt the pain, she felt the frustration, she felt the problem being so great. And so she's crying out, Lord, help me. Help me. She had identified with the daughter. She identified with the situation of the daughter. If you help me, it's my daughter that will be the benefactor. He then spoke again, and he said to her, again something that seems to be cruel. It is not good to take the children's bread, talking about Israel, the children's bread, and throw it to the dogs. Now he was calling her a dog. And this, in their culture at that time, to be called a dog or other animals was an insult. It was something that you would do with an enemy, was something that you would come against someone you hated, to call them a dog. Because the picture of a dog at that time was the wild dogs that were in the streets ravaging through the garbage, just not good quality situation, but they're just wild. And so the people didn't like them, and they were afraid of them, and they would destroy them. And he was calling her a dog. But if you look at the Hebrew, that's not the word that he was using. Not a street dog. He was using the terminology which indicated or identified a pet dog that would live in the house. Because a street dog could not eat the crumbs from the table. He wouldn't be allowed in the house. So he wasn't calling her of the street dog, the wild character, that which were put down. And she caught this. She understood that. He wasn't putting me down as though I were a dog on the street. But still, he was setting a picture, and she came along with it also, and she said, yes, even the dogs feed on the crumbs which fall from the master's table. She set a picture. She set an image, the table, the master. She was recognizing that she was not the master, that he was greater than her. She was in humility coming to him in such a way. And she was saying, it's the Jews who have the benefit. They're able to sit at the master's table. I'm a Canaanite. I'm a dog. But even the dogs get the crumbs from under the table. A picture that just shows the faith of this woman and how great her faith was. Jesus recognized the greatness of this faith because he had not seen this in Israel. Israel tells us in scriptures, in Luke, it says, he came to his own received him not. Many argued with him, questioned him, was trying to treat him evilly. Some even tried to kill him. But here was a foreigner, an enemy, bowing down to him and recognizing that you are greater than I am. I'm not asking to be able to sit at the table. All I'm asking for is the crumbs. Just give me the crumbs. Such humility, and yet such faith. It impressed Christ, and she said to him, woman, your faith is great. She didn't get upset because she was called a dog. She didn't get upset because he didn't answer. She didn't get upset because he's saying, I came only for the children, the lost sheep of the fold of God. This didn't cause her to be angry. And it says to us, even in the midst of all that might come against us, there is always something that you can pull out that will give you hope. Something that will take away the fear, the pain, the frustration, and lift you up. There's something good in this. I saw just recently where one of our wealthy people who are being hurt many ways because of their businesses here in the country. This person said, I see a blessing in the midst of all of this. And I was drawn back to what this woman was saying. She saw that even though she was not a Jew, and even though she couldn't become a Jew, she was holding on to the fact that she could eat from the crumbs of the table. She was asking for help for her daughter. And Jesus said to her, what you have, be it done unto you as you have wished, because you have faith. She didn't give up. She didn't give up. Even though things were against her, she didn't give up. Even though things may seem like they are fighting against us, don't give up. Hold on. There's something in the midst of this that's good. Something that you can hold on to and realize from here we're going to see some great things take place. God promised He would turn everything to good. And so even though we are at the moment in situations we don't like, there's something being prepared for us. If we hold firm our confidence and our faith in God. Remember, we are to walk like Christ walked. We are to have the wisdom of God and see the opportunities that are presented to us in the midst of the storm. Jesus, in the last few weeks, have been talking to us about faith and how great the faith is. She pleaded, help me. She said right in the very beginning, I don't deserve this. Have mercy on me. I'm Canaanite. I'm not a Jew. Have mercy on me. I don't deserve this. I recognize that. I don't deserve your help, but help me. She was reaching out. I don't think that this was a situation we're in that this just happened. And Jesus went there and all of a sudden, oh, here's this woman. No. There's a purpose in it. He speaks to us in the midst of it. But he also says that to follow me, eventually, my life will be for all, not just for a few. And he introduced this to his disciples. He introduced this before he left. And the message that we see in the scriptures about the disciples is that most of them, if not all of them, left Israel and went out to the world and began to spread the gospel to the Gentiles. Here was Christ being the first to set the course, the direction. And I don't believe, as I said, I don't believe it just happened. There was a plan. There was a purpose. Because everything God did had purpose. Nothing just is out of emotions or reactions, but everything has a reason and a purpose. As we are in this lockdown, this virus, there's something here for us. Are we listening? Are we paying attention? Are we looking at our lives? Are we evaluating where we've been and where we are and where we should be? As this woman had this faith. I'm reminded of scriptures just a couple of Sundays ago of the mustard seed. How small it might be, yet when it is depended upon, it becomes a giant tree. This seed planted here in this woman eventually becomes the open door for all the Gentiles. Her holding firm, she didn't know what she was doing. She didn't understand that perhaps she's opening a door for all to be part of what the Jews were receiving. She was the one that would hold firm her faith and find that now the gospel could go out to the whole world. A small seed, a mustard seed, becoming like the tree on which others could depend upon. She was being called a dog. She was talking about the crumbs under the table. But she didn't realize that the end of all of this perhaps would be the whole world belonging and receiving the love and the provision that Christ gives. What we see here is, number one, love. She loved her daughter. She became identified with the pain of her daughter. When she was saying, "Help me," she was wanting help for her daughter, but she's talking about me because I've brought this into me so that I'm hoping and holding firm my faith for her. And her faith, how great her faith. She wasn't belligerent. She wasn't an agnostic. She was holding firm confidence and assurance that this son of David could help her if he would. And she's asking for mercy. She's not demanding anything. She's asking for mercy. And she's recognizing she doesn't deserve it because she's not a part of the plan that was meant for the Jews. She, in so approaching, perhaps opens a door for all to receive. Christ makes it known to us that his works were even for his enemies. Doesn't matter. It was for all. This woman worshipped Christ. She came, she bowed down to him. This was not a part of their culture, not a part of where she was. They had taken the land from them. And it was land that was with great ability. A land of milk and honey. The scriptures tells us, don't fret because of the wealth of others, the wealth of the unrighteous. Relax. They are preparing it for you. Here, all this land of Canaan was prepared for by others. They were unrighteous. They were not the people of God. But it was prepared for Israel. We sometimes get jealous of others who have much. Relax. The day will come when God will see that all those things come to his people. Her persistence. She wouldn't give up until she got her answer. She was not going to give up. One of the things we do too often is that we give up. We pray, that's it, just a simple prayer. And then we say, it didn't work, so I got to do something else. We don't hold firm. Notice her attitude. Even though the disciples tried to send her away, even though she was an enemy, even though she was being put down under normal circumstances, she didn't lose faith. She was persistent. She kept holding on. She knew if only she could get through, her daughter would be healed. She didn't give up until that was given. And in the midst of it, you don't hear her feeling sad for herself, bitter. She was joyful. She was cheerful. She would come back at Christ with something that was very, very righteous. She wasn't angry. But Lord, even the dogs get the crumbs underneath the master's table. She could come back with these quick things without anger, without defending herself. She would say, Lord, help me. I believe this speaks to us, because sometimes we feel like, well, I don't really deserve it. I'm not this righteous. I'm not this good. Hold firm. Mercy. Mercy is for the lost. Some place I read this week where it says all are locked in sin in order that they could be redeemed by the cross. Well, that's not the exact wording of it. That's the meaning of it. We're all brought into sin and we're guilty. All have sinned and come short of the glory of God. But in that position, that situation, the cross then redeems those who have been caught in that sin. And so this is the hope we have, the faith that we need. And in this hour, I don't believe this is an accident, that these scriptures are the scriptures that are meant for today, this season. They are helping us to hold firm faith, not to be frustrated or anxious, and not giving up. Many people today are giving up. Businesses are closing. They're throwing up their hands. They're giving up. This is not the time to give up. This is a time to hold firm, because in so doing, you come out on top. I remember back a long time ago, the Great Recession in the U.S., how that many people lost their homes, many people lost businesses. It was really a great depression. But there were some who would just hold on. And when the thing ended, they came out on top. I know of one gentleman who was a personal friend of the family. He lost his job, had nothing, lost his home, but he took the home. I mean, the bank had taken it, because he couldn't make the payments, so it's repossessed legally. The bank didn't want a house. What are they going to do with the house? Everybody's got losing their houses, and so they've got all the houses, and they don't need them. But he stayed in his home. He took care of the home. He repaired it. He did whatever he could simply to take care of it. When the depression was over, the bank told him, you have a home. It's yours. He didn't have to pay for it. He took care of it, and he got it in the end. How many people at that time, the same thing happened? They didn't give up. Yes, they didn't have anything, but whatever they had, they took care of it. And in the end, they owned it. I can't say that it's the same now, but whatever we're going through, in the midst of it, there's something good that God is speaking to us, if only we have the faith. Don't give up. Never mind what they call you. Never mind what they say about you. Doesn't matter. The thing is, God's with you, and He will not fail you. We are His children, and He has prepared for us. There's a purpose in this. This didn't just happen. There's a purpose in it. If we will look for the purpose, we will see the good that God has given to us. Amen. Please stand.